Hey everybody, it's time for my top 100. Hey, what's happening, Brew Crew? It is that time of year again, and I am super excited to be doing another top games of all time list. Now, back when I was streaming on Twitch, on my birthday, I would stream my top X games where X equaled my age. Since I've made the transition over to YouTube, though, I decided just to commit to doing a top 100. Now, if you're familiar with my channel at all, you'll know that I typically do my list in 6-packs, but I also didn't want to drag this series out for longer than 10 videos, so I'm going to be doing this top 100 in groups of 10. I also want to mention that I used the PubMeeple ranking engine to make my initial list, although I did do a little bit of fine-tuning once the results came back. If you're not familiar with PubMeeple, I highly recommend checking them out. They have some really great tools out there for board gamers, beer enthusiasts, movie buffs, and all different kinds of different geekdoms. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I really think it's a great site, and so I just wanted to make sure to give them a shout out. First off, since so many people are new to the channel this year, I'll explain a little bit about myself and my gaming tastes. I consider myself to have a pretty broad range of tastes when it comes to gaming, but with that being said, I have yet to try any real war games, miniatures games, train games, anything like that. But I do like games of all different weights. I would say my sweet spot tends to be in the medium to medium heavy Euro-style board game, although my win rate for these types of games is pretty low, which I think is why I keep coming back to them. I find the challenge of solving that efficiency puzzle really satisfying. I do enjoy a lot of thematic games as well. For example, we've recently started our Oathsworn Into the Deepwood campaign, and I'm really liking it so far. Although we haven't played enough of it yet this year for it to make the list. I also tend to like area control, area majority games, and I'm a big fan of what's been going on recently with trick-taking games. As far as ranking the games goes, it was all up to my personal taste and opinions. This isn't necessarily a list of games that are objectively great games. This is my list of my favorite games. I've been doing this for a few years now, so I do have some historical data that I will try to remember to mention for each game, whether it's new to the list or any movement over the years. I do have a few new games on the list that debuted pretty high, but at this point I think I've played enough games that I have a pretty solid idea of what I like. I also have some games lower on the list that I think have the potential to climb pretty high with more plays. For the first 9 videos, I'll be keeping the descriptions fairly brief so that they don't become too long. And then once we get up into my top 10, I'll be going into a little bit more detail about each game. All right, that's enough preamble. Let's get started with my number 100.
100.
Okay, my number 100 is Isle of Cats. This is a drafting, tile-laying polyomino game from Frank West and published by the City of Games. This game debuted at number 48 for me back in 2020 and has dropped and hovered right around the low 100s. This is a really great game that requires you to make a lot of really tough decisions about what cards you're going to keep and play and where you're going to place your cats on your ship once you've rescued them. I love all the weird looking cats, and this is also one of the few polyomino games that I have kept in my collection.
99.
Number 99 is Clank, and for the sake of simplicity, I just considered all the Clank games I've played as one entry. This is a deck building push your luck style game designed by Paul Denon and published by Direwolf. It was 38 for me in 2019. 65 in 2020, 56 in 2021, and 63 last year. I think over the last few years especially, I've kind of cooled on deck building as a mechanism, and that's why it's been slowly on the decline. But I do still really enjoy this game. I still like deck building as a mechanism within a game, rather than deck building on its own. I tend to flip-flop a little bit which Clank I prefer, the original or Clank in Space. I tend to prefer fantasy over sci-fi, but Space added some cool restrictions to movement that I think were a great addition. I've yet to play Clank Legacy or Clank Catacombs, but I'm very interested in trying both, especially Catacombs because it looks like it really ramps up that exploration aspect.
98.
Number 98 is Cat in the Box, which is a very unique trick-taking game where the cards do not have a suit until you play them, at which point you tell everyone which suit you want that card to be. I have the deluxe edition from Bezier Games here in the US, and I played this for the first time at Gen Con in 2022. It did make my top 100 that year at number 95. Honestly, this one could be moving up if we played it a little bit more often, but it's such an esoteric trick-taking game that I can't just pull it out and teach it to anyone. The idea of trying to follow suit when none of the cards have a suit is kind of bizarre, yet it works so brilliantly. The little area control game on the side also is something that I really love, but I find it hard to teach to people that are not familiar with trick-taking games. I'm also always on the edge of my seat with this game, trying to make sure that I am not the one to trigger the paradox.
97.
My number 97 game is the Red Cathedral, published by DeVere. This game first made it onto my list at number 47. I played this game quite a few times when I first got it, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it dropped this far, which I suppose is at least partially due to fewer plays. This game has a really clever dice manipulation resource management aspect to it, where you are moving dice around a circle, trying to gather the resources needed to help build the Red Cathedral. It's also got a really solid, really smooth solo mode. I'm really looking forward to the follow-up game, the White Castle, which looks like a very different game, but it's from the same design team and also published by DeVere, so I'm very excited to check that one out.
96.
Number 96 is brand new to the list this year, and that's Revive. I didn't hear much about this game at all last year until the Best of 2022 lists started coming out, and it seemed like everyone was talking about it then. I was definitely not disappointed once I finally had a chance to play it, though. On the surface, it has a pretty simple action selection core mechanism, but what really stands out for me in this game are all of the special actions and abilities that you unlock as you begin building out your engine. It's got two ways to play, a simplified version for new players and a more complex version for veteran players. I have played both, and I think they're both good, but for my gaming taste, I don't think I'd ever go back to playing the simplified version. I like all of the additional unique factions and abilities that come with the complex version. This one is another one that I could see moving up the ranks the more I play it.
95.
My number 95 is The Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. Don't worry, Castles of Burgundy is much higher on my list. This one has been hanging around just outside of my top 100 for several years. And if I had to guess, it's bumped up this year because I recently received the new deluxe version of Castles of Burgundy from Awakened Realms, which has kind of rekindled my love for that game and kind of pulled the dice version of it up along with it. There are a handful of roll and write games that I've enjoyed, but overall I would say that I've never been particularly excited about the genre. But I am such a big fan of the full game of Castles of Burgundy that I was interested in trying out the smaller, travel-friendly version, and I wasn't disappointed. This game still gives us the tough decisions and combos that we love from base castles, but in a much smaller and quicker game. This is a game we take on vacations and out to restaurants, and I love it because it gives me the feeling of a bigger game without hogging up a ton of table space.
94.
Number 94 is Seven Wonders from Antoine Bauza and Repos Productions. This is another game that is not new to me, but it's new to my top 100. This is one that the more I play it, the more I come to really appreciate its design. The simultaneous drafting means you can play at any player count, and the game does not drag on, which is fantastic. There are very few games outside of party games that I like to play at the higher player counts because of the amount of time that they add to the game. Another thing I really enjoy about this one is the feeling of progression that you get when you play it. You start off in the first stage and you really have nothing, but by the end of the third age, you're getting cards for free and building much more elaborate buildings with tons of resources. I love games that give me that feeling of growth. I also really love how conflict is handled in this game because you don't have to worry about what every other player is doing. You just have to worry about the player on either side of you, which I think is a really elegant solution that keeps the game moving along at a good pace.
93.
My number 93 is one of the first area control style games that I played, and that's Blood Rage. This is a really cool game from Eric Lang and published by Simon. It also has card drafting along with area control and resource management to move your Vikings around a map and try to gain the most glory in battle. What I love about this game, though, is that you don't necessarily have to win the battle to gain the glory. A warrior's death can have its own reward as well. This game was number 57 for me last year, 36 in 2021, 84 in 2020, and 18 in 2019. So this game has been all over the board for me, but I think it tends to get a boost whenever I play the other games in the trilogy between Rising Sun and Ankh. Spoiler alert, one of those is higher on my list. Blood Rage is a game that I'd really love to get to the table again soon because it's been a long time since I've played it, and who knows, it may end up rising up the ranks again.
92.
Number 92 is Village from Inka and Marcus Brand and published by Eggerspiel. This is one that I'm kind of surprised ended up this low because I think the design of this game is fantastic. It's a worker placement game, which is a really popular mechanism, but in this game your workers will actually age and die, meaning that obviously you can no longer use them. Ideally, when they die, they will be immortalized in the Town Chronicle, which will provide you with some more points. If not, at the end, they end up in the graveyard with everyone else. Despite this somewhat morbid mechanism, the game itself is really charming. You are just a family trying to make a name for yourself. Now, this game started off at number 41 in 2020, fell to 81 in 2021, and missed my top 100 in 2022, but some recent plays have brought it back into my memory and really just kind of reminded me of how good it is.
91.
And the last one on this list for today, my number 91, is Walnut Grove, or Welcome to Walnut Grove. This game was 87 last year, 38 the year before that, 24 in 2020, and 35 in 2019. So it kept steady for a few years, then dropped, and now seems to be settled in the high 80s to low 90s. And I think the drop here has to do with fewer plays, but also as I look over this list, I think some great games are just bound to get pushed farther down as more great games are released. And another thing that I've noticed as well is that there seems to be more movement among games lower on the list, and as we get closer to the top, things are generally a little steadier. Now, I'm not really sure how much love Walnut Grove got over the years. It doesn't seem like a game that I've heard too many people talk about. I really love it though. It's got a bit of a rondel mechanism thing going on where you are moving around a city square taking actions at different buildings to improve your farm. There's also a really neat tile laying aspect where each round you'll draw a certain number of tiles out of a bag and choose a certain number of them to keep. These numbers will change from round to round, and you will probably want to draw and keep more than you are able to. Then you'll add these tiles to your farm, but they'll only produce resources once you put workers in those fields. Storage space is also really tight in this game, and you have to make sure that you can feed and shelter your workers, which causes some really great tension. Unfortunately, I think this game is pretty hard to find now, but if you come across a copy and you think our tastes align with games, I would definitely recommend giving it a try. With all the new and revised editions coming out, I'd really love to see this one come back as well. All right, everyone, that's it for the first video in my Top 100 series. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. I really do appreciate everyone who takes the time to check out these videos and this channel. It's something that I've been having a lot of fun doing, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. In the comments, let me know if you've played any of these games and what you think of them. And until next time, let's get another round for the table.